The VA hospital waiting room was crowded on a Tuesday afternoon, filled with veterans of different ages, different wars, different wounds. Young Marine Corporal Danny Chen sat impatiently, his leg bouncing with restless energy. He was there for a routine checkup, annoyed at the wait, scrolling through his phone. Across from him sat an old man, maybe 70, wearing a short-sleeved shirt despite the cold outside. What caught Danny's attention wasn't the man's age or his weathered face, it was his arms. Both arms were covered, completely covered in tattoos. Not the kind of decorative sleeves you'd see on young people today, all connected in artistic swirls. These were different. Dozens of individual tattoos, each one separate, each one simple. Names, dates, numbers. Some were faded with age, the ink spreading slightly under old skin. Some looked newer, sharper. They covered every inch from wrist to shoulder, wrapping around his forearms like twisted vines of memory. Danny had seen plenty of tattoos in the military, but nothing like this. It looked chaotic, almost obsessive. Dude, Danny said, not bothering to hide his judgment. Why so many tattoos, old man? Couldn't decide on just one design. A few other veterans in the waiting room looked up. Some frowned at Danny's disrespect, but nobody said anything. The old man slowly turned his head, his eyes meeting Danny's. They were pale blue, clear despite his age, and they held something that made Danny's smirk falter. Not anger, something deeper. Something that felt like looking into a well with no bottom. But before we hear his answer, let me ask you something. Have you ever judged someone without knowing their story? Have you ever made an assumption that you wish you could take back? Share your experience in the comments, and hit that like button because what this old man says next will change everything. You're a Marine, the old man said quietly, noticing Danny's core tattoo on his forearm. How many deployments? Danny straightened, a bit of pride entering his voice. To Afghanistan infantry. The old man nodded slowly. I was infantry too, Vietnam, 4 tours. The room got quieter. A few veterans shifted in their seats, paying attention now. The old man held up his left arm, pointing to a tattoo near his wrist. Just a name, Michael Torres. This was my first, he said. Basic training. We became best friends. Me and Torres joined up together from the same town. Same street, actually. Grew up playing baseball in the same lot. He traced the letters with a gnarled finger. Stepped on a mine 3 weeks into our first deployment. I was walking right behind him. Danny's throat tightened, but he said nothing. The old man continued, moving up his arm. Another name, James Sullivan. Sullivan was our medic. Ran into fire to save a wounded civilian. Didn't make it back. Another name, David Kim. Kim had a kid he'd never met. Baby was born while we were overseas. He carried the ultrasound picture in his helmet. Sniper got him 2 days before we were supposed to rotate home. The old man's voice never wavered, never broke. He spoke with a flat, careful tone of someone who'd learned long ago that emotion was a dam that, once cracked, might never be repaired. He moved to his right arm. More names. Robert Jackson, Tommy Martinez, Christopher Lee. Each name came with a story. Each story ended the same way. Danny stopped scrolling through his phone. Other veterans in the waiting room were leaning forward now, some with tears in their eyes. An older army vet in the corner removed his cap, held it against his chest. 63 names, the old man said, looking at both his arms. 63 men I served with across 4 tours. 63 brothers who didn't come home. I got a tattoo for each one, on the anniversary of the day they died. Been doing it for 50 years. If your heart is pounding right now, if you're understanding the weight of what you're hearing, subscribe to this channel. These are the stories that need to be told, the truths we can't forget. Hit that subscribe button because what comes next will break your heart and put it back together. Why? Danny asked, his voice barely a whisper. Why do this to yourself? Why carry them all like this? The old man was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft but steady. Because somebody has to remember. Their families remember, sure, but I was there. I held some of them when they died. I made promises to others. I told Torres I'd make it home for both of us. I told Kim I'd name my son after him, and I did. I told Sullivan that his sacrifice meant something. He looked down at his arms, at the gallery of ghosts that covered his skin. These aren't just tattoos, son. They're a roster, a formation. Every morning when I wake up I see them. Every time I reach for something, shake someone's hand, hug my grandkids, I feel them there. And I remember that I'm living the life they didn't get to live. Danny felt something hot behind his eyes. Around the room, tough men who'd seen combat were wiping their faces. The old man continued, you asked why so many, I could ask why so few. 63 seems like nothing when I remember how many more there could have been, how many more there were in other units, other wars. Each of these names represents a mother who got a folded flag, a father who lost his son, a wife who became a widow, children who grew up without their dad. He pulled his sleeve down slowly, carefully, like he was tucking his brothers in for the night. So yeah, I've got a lot of tattoos, and I'll keep getting them as long as my brothers from those wars keep dying from the wounds they carried home. The ones you can't see. The waiting room was silent except for the quiet sound of men breathing through emotion. Danny stood up, walked over, and extended his hand. Sir, I apologize. I didn't know. I didn't understand. The old man took his hand, gripped it firmly. Now you do. And maybe next time you see someone carrying something heavy, something you don't understand, you'll ask with respect instead of judgment. We all carry something, son. Some of us just wear it on our skin. This story is about more than tattoos. It's about memory, about sacrifice, about the weight that warriors carry long after the battle's end. It's about understanding that everyone has scars, some visible and some not, and all of them earned through pain. The next time you see someone who looks different, who carries themselves in ways you don't understand, remember this old man and his 63 reasons. Remember that judgment comes easy, but understanding requires courage. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment telling us about a veteran in your life who carries their own weight. Subscribe to this channel because these stories honor those who served and remind us all what real sacrifice looks like. Thank you for listening, and may we never forget the names written on the arms and hearts of those who survived to tell the tale.